This is Rangda, the Balinese witch. Stories are told about her, barong dances are done about her. In them, she does many witchy things, and finally, she is defeated by the greater power of the white magic of the high priest, Empu Bharata. Well, those are the stories that are typically told about Rangda. But in the Hindu tradition, there are always good and bad existing in balance with each other, and there's always more than one side to a story. So I thought that today, rather than telling you the story from the point of view of the high priest, you might want to hear the story from Rangda's point of view, from Rangda herself. I am Rangda, the witch who haunts the jungle. Look at how they portray me. Long wild hair, bulging eyes, fangs, terrifying claws. I was a great beauty. I was the queen of Bali. Can you imagine that the king would have married a creature who looked like that? And the way they portray me, that's not the worst of it. It's the stories they tell about me. Has anyone ever told lies about you? They say I killed the king's soldiers with fire that came from my eyes. They say I caused a great plague and killed many, many people. They say I drank blood with Durga, the goddess of power and vengeance at the crossroads. They say I traveled with a band of liaks, of evil spirits. And they say that finally the high priest, Empu Bharata, defeated me with his greater power of white magic. That's what they say. But remember, there are always two sides to every story. I was born a princess on an island neighboring Bali. I was well educated, I was beautiful, and I was devout. I had studied my holy book carefully. When I was married to the king of Bali, it was considered a great match. I gave him a son, an heir to the throne, and because of my education, I was able to act as an advisor to my husband. Now, my husband had a top advisor, the high priest, Empu Bharata. And you know how people in power like to retain their power. I could see Empu Bharata watching me talk to my husband. He would get a scowl on his face, he would clench his hands. And one time, I overheard him telling his ministers, "See the influence she wields over the king. She must be practicing black magic." And rumors began to spread through the villages, and they came back to my husband. And Empu Bharata said to my husband, "Do something about the queen. Her black magic will destroy your kingdom." I was in my chamber. I was combing my long, beautiful hair with the comb my mother had given me as a wedding gift, when I was summoned to see the king immediately. I wrapped my cloak around me. I picked up my holy book, and with my comb still in my hand, I rushed to the throne room. The king rose from the throne. He was holding my young son by his hand. "For the crimes of practicing black magic, you are banished forever to the jungle." I tried to defend myself. "I'm practicing no black magic. Those are lies, lies." But my husband would hear nothing of it. "It is only your rank which keeps you alive. You must go with only what you have." I turned and walked to the jungle. My heart was breaking. I had lost everything. I had left my son, my life. I reached a clearing in the jungle and fell to my knees. I prayed to every god I had learned of in my holy book, and my prayers were met with silence. I prayed to every goddess I had learned of in the holy book, and when I came to Durga, the goddess of power and vengeance, a warm wind circled me, and from the greeny darkness of the jungle came a tiger. The tiger is the vehicle of Durga. The tiger carried a still living young goat in its mouth. I read the message from Durga in that tiger's eyes. Be strong and sacrifice this goat to Durga and survive, or turn away and die in the jungle alone. Blood sacrifice with these hands? These are princess hands. These are queen hands. I've never done any work, and I've spent a lot of time on the nails. And anyway, what did I have to live for? I had lost everything, my kingdom, my husband, my son. But some force in me compelled me to pick up a large rock, walk over to that poor animal, and I was met with a warm shower of blood. I was happy I had chosen life, because although I did not know it on the day I was banished, I was already carrying the king's second child. My daughter, Ratna Mangali, was born in the jungle. She was the joy of my life. I taught her everything I knew. I taught her from the holy book, and she grew to be a beautiful young woman, and I knew it was time for her to marry. I waited for my opportunity. My husband, the king, had died. My son had ascended to the throne. I combed my daughter's hair with the comb my mother had given me on my own wedding. I wrapped the cloak that I had left the palace with on the day of my exile around her shoulders, and together we went to the palace to appear before my son, the king. My son, this is your sister, Ratna Mangali. She is full royal as you. Great injustice was done me. Lies were told about me, and your father believed them. You must right those wrongs. Restore your sister to her proper place. Find her a worthy husband. My son rose from his throne. I have no mother. I have no sister. Guards, guards. I grabbed my daughter by the hand, and as I fled the palace, I screamed, Holy Durga, give me justice. I ran to the jungle. I sent my daughter one direction to hide for her safety. I fled through the jungle, creating a path very easy for the soldiers to follow. I took that path through the bogs and the unhealthy places, and I stopped with my back to the cemetery. The soldiers raced towards me with their kriss, their gleaming swords aloft. I screamed, Durga, give me strength. And from behind me, from the cemetery, a wind rose up, and with it an orange dust and large rocks which came flying over my head and fell in an enormous shower on the soldiers. The soldiers turned and fled in terror and disarray. I imagine that that's where the rumors about me and the band of Liak's evil spirits got started. Anyway, after the rains every year, a fever comes to the villages. But this year, there was a fever like no other. It started with the soldiers who had pursued me into the jungle. They became sick. They began to die. It spread to their families. Women, children, grandparents began to die. My son, the king, became alarmed. He called his high priest, his top advisor, to him. Empu Bharata, she said great wrong was done to her, that an injustice must be righted. People are dying. What should I do? Empu Bharata clenched his hands. We cannot defeat her with power. We must use cleverness. He called his young student to him, a young, handsome man. Go to the jungle and find Rangda. Tell her that her son, the king, has sent you to marry her daughter. Bring the daughter back to the palace, and in this way we will learn the secret of the black magic. The young man came to the jungle, and he courted my daughter. I was so happy to see the two young people together, and I watched with delight as I saw that they truly fell in love. She accompanied him back to his village. Now, this young man was caught between two forces. Empu Bharata sang, "Get the secret of the black magic," and my daughter sang, "There is no black magic." The young man said to my daughter, "For me, sweetheart, just go to the jungle just once and ask your mother one more time." I was thrilled when my daughter came to me in the jungle. She looked radiant in her new life. And when she asked me the secret of the black magic, I said, "Dear one, there is no black magic. You know that. Only power that I have is power that comes from Durga, the goddess of power and vengeance, the only goddess who heard my prayers on the day I was exiled. Here, take my holy book. Show Empu Bharata, and he will see that there is no evil here." I was sad to say goodbye to my daughter and to my holy book, but I knew that that would be the only way for my daughter to be safe. Once she had delivered the holy book to Empu Bharata, she would have done her job. Empu Bharata read my holy book. I see it appears to be an ordinary holy book. But Rangda reads it backwards and drinks blood with Durga at the crossroads, and that is the secret of her black magic. Empu Bharata issued an order. I want to see Rangda on the next full moon light in the village square by the great banyan tree, the king's symbol of life. I will pit my white magic against her black magic, and we will see who is most powerful. The full moon night came. All that afternoon, I had seen clouds gather and had heard rumblings of thunder. As night fell, I crept through the jungle and hid behind a tree. I watched Empu Bharata come out wearing his fierce lion mask, holding his kris, his sword aloft, and he planted himself in front of that banyan tree. Villagers came, holding lighted torches to watch this great battle. At midnight, clouds parted, the full moon became visible, and I leapt from behind the tree where I was hiding, and I screamed a scream that told of the injustice done to me, the cruelty, the loneliness that I had experienced, and at that exact second, a huge bolt of lightning came down from the sky and split that banyan tree. It fell to the ground with such a force that the ground shook as though it were an earthquake. We were all thrown to the ground senseless. I was the first to awake. I walked over to the still unconscious Empu Barata. You will never see me in this bodily form again, but injustice has not been righted. My spirit will live on forever. I turned and walked back to the jungle. When the people awoke, they told a new story about me. They said that Empu Barata had defeated me with his greater power of white magic. I don't care about their stories. Though we have all been dead for more than 1,000 years, the people of Bali still talk about Rangda, the witch who haunts the jungle. They still fear me, and it's right. They should, for I am their conscience. Whenever there is injustice, cruelty, or lies, my spirit comes back through the dark jungles of their minds to haunt them in their stories, their dances, and their dreams.